Hi, everyone. Welcome to Poet. I'm Radha Marcum, and today I have the pleasure of talking to poet Sarah Giragosian, author of Mother Octopus. Before I introduce you to Sarah, I'd like to invite you to become a subscriber of the Poet to Poet newsletter on Substack if you aren't already. Just go to poettopoet.substack.com and subscribe for free. In it, you'll find interviews like this one, plus helpful ideas on writing and publishing books of poetry. So today, again, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Sarah Giragosian. Sarah is the author of Queerfish, winner of the American Poetry Journal Book Prize and The Death Spiral. In 2023, the University of Akron Press released the craft anthology, Marbles on the Floor, How to Assemble a Book of Poems, which we had a conversation about on this series, and I'll link to in our notes here, which she co-edited. So she is also the author, obviously, of the book that we're going to be talking about today, which is called Mother Octopus, which was a co-winner of the Halcyon Prize. And her writing has appeared in such journals as Orion, Tin House, Pleiades, and Prairie Schooner, among others. Sarah teaches at the University at Albany SUNY. So welcome to Poet to Poet.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that introduction, and thank you for hosting me.
My pleasure. And I should say welcome back since you've already
Yeah,
been here and talked about that fabulous anthology.
yeah, glad to
Um,
be back.
so Mother Octopus is the latest book that you have written, and it's your third collection. How was the process different for this book than for the others?
Yeah, so Mother Octopus was a book that I started in 2020. Um, it went through a few pivots, but ultimately the themes and the strands, I think, were unified. Um, This was a very personal book for me. Not to say that the others weren't, but I lost my mom to cancer in 2023. And while working on the manuscript, I was really processing my grief for her and writing about that experience. Initially, though, in 2020, it was a book that sought to respond to the pandemic. It was really an inquiry into human and animal appetites and the way those appetites can threaten the environment. It was a very eco-poetic collection. I was writing about things like bacteria and gut flora and all the agencies that kind of interact with our systems, and sometimes don't even rise to the level of consciousness. Um, and then it became something else, I think, as I was going through the process of caretaking for my mother. So it was a collection that I wrote, both during that period of kind of processing, what her terminal illness looked like, and it became a book of mourning about her. Um, One thing that I've been thinking a lot about is the form of the elegy. I learned a lot about the kind of the possibilities for innovating the elegy after reading Patricia Smith's Blood Dazzler, which is one of my favorite collections. And
Mm.
the elegy traditionally, it's a poem of lament and it moves towards a trajectory of consolation for the reader. But that's not the case, I would say, in a book like Blood Dazzler. Instead, the consolation that we're expecting does not happen. Instead, it's a book that moves towards agitation, right? It's a very political collection that responds to Hurricane Katrina and the failures of the Bush administration to help and rehabilitate the people of New Orleans. So I was really interested in this idea of the elegy as a form that can be kind of politicized. Cancer, I think we tend to think of it as an individual experience. It's something the individual undergoes. But after reading Catherine Savage's Ground Glass, which is kind of a memoir, one thing she says is that cancer is touches all of us. It's a collective experience, more than a personal experience. And it's true, like we're engaging with um, forces and agencies and carcinogens all around us. And so I would say that, in Mother Octopus, I was interested in writing not just about this personal experience of grieving for my mother, but also thinking about what it means to live in a very toxic world. Um, and kind of getting readers to think about the ways in which um, human intervention in the landscape and on the earth um, is not always salutary. It's not always salutary, that it can end in, adding toxic forces to our environment. So that's a long-winded way of saying that this manuscript has a lot of different preoccupations, but ultimately I was trying to weave those different strands together in the collection.
Mhm. hmm
Yeah.
Right. And you have, just to give listeners or viewers a little taste, you have poems that reference for example, the Chernobyl exclusion zone.
Right.
And so this book isn't afraid to go quite wide in the scope
Mhm.
of covering those themes.
Right.
Um, Maybe would you like to read a poem to just give us a sense of the voice of this collection?
Sure. I'll read a poem called To the Source. To the Source. Take my hand. Will you bring me to the source, to the river's mouth? If I rise with the river, I'll be flooded with cattails and runoff. If I run off with you, do you know a place beyond the arm of the state? It's getting late. Lead me to the heartland or a body of water, to my earliest language, so we can pledge to soil, seed, and air, indivisible in a sparrow's first subsong. What if all's related? The quality of light, the superfund sight, the lump in the breast, the songbird sighted too early in spring. In the smog, the only sunrise that can be seen stalls out on a TV screen. Perhaps somewhere else, somebody's birthright is sunlight, but in this big gulp country, my body is an artifact of industry, a trial, a test. PCBs in the bloodstream, exposure to mercury and lead dioxins. My fertility is uncertain, and that wheeze you hear could be a symptom, could be a prickle of grief. It's getting late and the garden's flooded. Its dredgings speak of sacrifice, broken teeth of harrow, patented seeds and chrysanthemum, engineered blue. When the time comes, we can count on our kind to reroute the river upstream, to remake whole cities rather than ourselves. It's getting late, and the heat's unseasonable, but season, which meant once a proper time, a sowing, now means scrounging for another morsel of land, an ice floe to rest on, or a gesture of hope, a spell of rain, or the essential play of bees in a force field of strawberries. It's getting late, the Arctic's burning, and you cannot coax methane back under permafrost. The mush spits up sealskin boots, seeds, and microbes, mammoth bones and pathogens, viruses that will follow the dotted lines of love. How does the song go? Is it told in a whisper with a crack in the voice? If you tilt your ear to the earth, what do you hear? It's getting late, and the whales are singing a little flat. So loud the acoustics of cracking icebergs, they may be changing their pitch to be heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so powerful the way that the poems are both factual and lyric at the same time. Do you want to comment on I don't know that there's necessarily a tension between those things, but working with fact in lyric poetry, how do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always been interested in science and the environment, and I think in many cases, questions around science are what inspire me. I'm very interested in being accurate, so that means, doing my research when I can. Yeah, and poetry can animate science in a way that's exciting. And yet at the same time, we know that certain work in the science can be problematic. It can be biased, right? It can have you know, it could be framed by construction, by work that is worth examining, I think, from a poetic frame of reference. And so I think poetry can, um, you know, begin to inquire into some of those forms of science, whether it be like social Darwinism or another pseudoscience that is worth deconstructing and questioning. So all that to say, there isn't always an easy relationship between science and poetry, but I think that there's a productive tension between them.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was, I'm drawn to poems like the field guide that you include
Mhm.
that directly question, the species naming conventions, right? That go into kind of the backstory, the history of some of that, and how our minds can still be, touched by those choices, even
Hmm.
though we see ourselves as very much beyond some of those, more archaic versions of scientific thought.
Right.
Um, Fantastic. So I am wondering if you might talk a little bit about the title and what the title means to you. You mentioned your mother, which I'm really so sorry to hear about your loss. How did you come up with Mother Octopus as the title?
Mm. Um, yeah, thank you. I mean, this collection has gone through a few permutations. Initially, the title was going to be Foreign Bodies.
Mm,
I have a poem called Foreign Bodies that was inspired by a trip to the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia, which is, um, it's really a place where you can learn about, um, modern medicine, and there were um, Pica patients, and the objects that they swallowed were on display at this
mm,
museum. And so, yeah, foreign bodies, it also kind of spoke to some of the other concerns in the manuscript. I'm married to my partner who is an immigrant. We're in a same-sex binational relationship. And of course, we know under the Trump administration that, there's a lot of anxiety,
mm,
I think, for immigrants and couples who are in a relationship with, couples who are um, have come from an experience of immigration. So Foreign Bodies was really going to be the title initially, and then I happened to discover Kamiko Han's beautiful collection, Foreign Bodies.
yeah.
Yeah, so I love Kamiko Han's work.
Mhm,
In any case, I decided I needed to pivot. So yeah, I've always been interested in the octopus too. I had written this poem, Mother Octopus, um, after doing research and learning about kind of the neural um, uh, complexity of the octopus, right? So it has various like brains in its tentacles, and it became a conceit, I think, for the devotion of the mother octopus to its eggs. The mother octopus will actually protect her eggs until she passes away. So yeah, that just kind of seemed to fit some of the concerns of the manuscript.
mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Not only sort of in as you were saying, the reflection on one's own mother, right, and that journey, but also, um, y- you know, I think there's a potency in that idea of that care, right?
Yeah.
And as we encounter problematic landscapes or, changes in the environment, how can we bring that attitude of extreme care in,
Right.
the case of the octopus? So I really thought it was a great title.
Oh, thank you.
Would you like to read another poem?
Sure,
Maybe
I'd be happy
Fowl at
to.
Large or
Yeah. So Fowl at Large became a favorite poem of mine after it was selected for the Slowdown, and I got to hear
Mhm.
Major Jackson read it. So um, this is a poem. Um, I mentioned a kite at the end of the poem, and I'll just mention that I was referring to a kite as in the bird, not the toy. Fowl at Large. What honing dial set awry, or false hunch, or storm of the century drives the accidental bird or dreaming poem to surface? As for me, I had disavowed hope's candle to egg devotions, spike-heeled the idea of someday. Speaking of chicks, newbies, and baby tortoises, if you sentence a beehive to a bell jar, those hourglass bees will one day spill like lava over every lip and crevice. I swear, I've seen those little torpedoes of joy and sting meet and greet every goldenrod, every marigold from here to long after cocktail hour. Like a cacophony of cats, so many eyes without apology, screaming their heads off, I've lost all sense of grace, thank God. My thirst is deeper. It shrieks for that kite, slicing through unseen geographies, lost, windstorm dazed, her compass needle wild as a roulette wheel.
Mhm. The motion in that poem is just really delightful.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah. I was in New York and looking outside of my friend's yard and discovered a kite flying
mm,
through. I had
mm,
never seen a kite so far north, so
mm,
that was kind of what inspired the poem.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I encourage anybody who hasn't seen a kite fly, the bird kite, um, to look it up on YouTube. It's
Mhm.
yeah, just really exquisite.
Yeah.
Um, so so you published three collections, and this one has a different publisher from other collections. How did you find the right publisher, assuming this is the right publisher? And did you have a strategy for, submissions for this particular manuscript?
Yeah, so I got really lucky. I had sent out the manuscript to various places. It was a finalist or a semi-finalist in a few contests. And then a friend and colleague whose work I really admire, Anne Haven McDonnell, came out with this book, beautiful collection called Breath on a Coal, and it was published by Middle Creek Press. And it had won the Halcyon Prize the year before um, I submitted my book to the Halcyon Prize. And um, the publisher of Middle Creek Press, it's run by David Anthony Martin, who's a great kind of literary activist and environmental writer himself. He edits the press, and he selected the manuscript for as a co-winner of the Halcyon Prize in 2023. Yeah, and a lot of my work is eco-poetic, so it seemed like a good fit at the time.
Hmm. Hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, so knowing somebody who had published with the press,
Mhm.
that's a good tip for folks. What other tips would you have for people who are trying to find, a publisher that might be aligned? In this case, the Ecopoetics was very aligned with the press's previous, publication list and also just their general their values as editors. What other tips might you have for people who are in that process of trying to find the publisher?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm very much interested in submitting to presses where I see some affinity. So looking at friends' presses or the presses of poets that I admire, and then going from there to think about, what are those presses that would be a good fit given some of the concerns and themes in my own work. I think always it's a good idea to do your research, right? To know the editors, to know the kind of um, uh, the mission of the press, and then kind of go from there. I mean, I would love to be able to say that I had a manuscript ready to go out and be published on the first go, but I think for me it's a little more trial and error. If I'm not successful the first round submitting to contests, maybe that's an indication that I need to go back and look at the manuscript and um, think about more significant revisions. So I'm more of someone who kind of tweaks as I go, learns from other readers of my manuscript. I'm part of a writing group, hearing from them about what needs maybe more work, or, in some cases, it's a matter of being more selective about which poems are included in the manuscript. Um, it's really kind of largely an intuitive process, but a process informed by, your writing group, I would say, and the other poets and writers that you kind of admire and aspire to be kind of in um the same affinity group, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think of a publisher as sort of a gatherer of
Hmm.
voices, right? And so when you find, I mean, that's something that, you know, it's so delightful to come into contact with something like Mother Octopus, because now I'm going, okay, well, what else is in that press's
Hmm.
um, you know, list. And
Right.
you mentioned Anne Haven McDonald. I know her work, and you start to get this sense of that affinity and
Hmm.
what kind of conversation is being curated by that
Right.
particular publisher. So that's great.
Yeah.
Would you like to read maybe one more poem?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Um, I don't write a lot of dream poems, but this poem was based on a dream that I had, um, in which the letter L disappeared from my
Hmm.
vocabulary. It became a
Hmm.
prose poem. So it's called The Lost Girls. In my dream, L is gone. Loop, light, lemon, and all the words that included the letter L had been culled from the alphabet, erased. Or perhaps they never existed, or were recanted, or, like a pair of gloves, were simply mislaid. It's hard to know the field of logic, the barriers of the possible in a dream world, and I find myself in a place where no one remembers or speaks the words that include the letter. Imagine the dominion of L exiled from consciousness. Leaf, blood, lungs, water lilies, these tongue to palate exertions, these down to earth nouns no longer flow from my mouth. Imagine the children reciting HIJKMNOP. Imagine the elision, the L's lost. Ils ont disparu. The girls, I wish to tell you, are missing. But neither my mother tongue nor your adopted one, our common one, converges any longer. Imagine trying to say I love you in an alphabet that has never conceived of love or of wildness, swaddle, pull, or pillow. No leaves trembling above. No lull of the lullaby in the nursery. No longing. No ebullience. An austere dictionary. How do I say that I'm writing you a love letter? In phonology, L, if pronounced before a vowel, is light, but after, dark. Say lamp. Say fell. Bereft again of the letter that I could hardly pronounce as a child, Mary has a yiddle yam I would sing in full-throated trochees. I could not even explain my lisp to you. My L's plundered from my language and my parallel dream world. The bull's eye of a word well selected in the right order. That satisfaction, I worried, I might never feel again. What a strange aquarium of a world inside a world that I float in. L's on my lips, but out comes bubbles. And you, Elise, are a different person, I feel. A woman living inside the perimeter of a 25-letter alphabet. So Elise is the name of my partner. She's French. And so I wrote a series of poems that I kind of interspersed throughout the collection about the progression of that dream. And there's a poem in the last section of the book about the letter being returned to me. It's called Hallelujah with all those L's. But yeah, that was an interesting kind of experiment for me because I haven't, like I said, I haven't written a lot of dream poems, but that one seems so perfect for an inquiry into language.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful. And of course, I'm hearing, it's a beautiful love poem. It, who would think of, I mean, the dream thought of this, right?
is
But
exactly.
right? So
Yeah,
it's a sort of gift in that sense. And I'm also
right,
hearing, whether you intend it or not, just based on the context of the collection, I'm hearing a kind of reflection on things that are being erased from the landscape,
right,
right? The species that are no longer there, or, in terms of the cancer, the genes that are missing, their
right.
full sequences. So,
Mhm.
so there is this kind of resonance across the different thematic pieces of the book as
Yeah,
well.
I mean the sudden disappearance of peoples too, right? I mean that's
Yes, yeah,
definitely part of that collection.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been such a delight to hear directly about this book that I've been enjoying. Where can
Thank
people
you.
find you if you would like to be found?
Sure. So I'm on Sarah Giragosian, my name.wordpress.com.
Great,
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk again, and I look forward to continuing our conversation.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your thoughtful questions and for the opportunity.